You know, on any given day, this is kind of what we have in the parking lot or in the shop. And most of the time we just don't have room to store cars, but this one's come in, has no brakes. It was given to us by another local shop that really didn't have the expertise, and so we've acquired this job as a go through the whole brakes. This is a Mark 7 Jag, and we're probably going to end up converting to Mark 9 front brakes, put disc brakes on the front of it, and just really safety is the key on this car, just because it's a big heavy lump, and we want it to be able to stop as well as go around corners. This is a Series 3 V12, which came in and has been sitting for 15 years. So typically we will obviously replace everything in the brakes, the suspension, anything with rubber in it basically gets replaced because of the deterioration over a period of time. The fuel lines, the fuel tank sender, we've redone the air conditioning, we've freshened up the inside of this car. We haven't done anything to the exterior on this one, and that may be down the road with the customer, but for the time being he wants to enjoy it for the summer, and then maybe we'll get it back in the winter, so we'll look forward to that. This car, it's a Series 1 E-Type. Obviously it's a coupe. This car came in pieces. It was red originally, and the customers decided to go for this beautiful Westminster blue. And of course a lot of pollen in the air, so probably the shine isn't quite where it needs to be, but this car is just about done. We have to detail it, and we'll do a couple more drives in it. We want to put some chrome wire wheels on it. That's what I'm talking to the customer about now, because ultimately it's going to really set this car off. But it's a beautiful car. We did the interior on it, and when they get to this point and you really go to drive them and you enjoy them, and I guess that's one of the really cool things about my job is I get to drive all these really cool cars, you know, and that really is part of the passion of what we do here, making sure that these cars are just done to perfection, that they operate exactly how they should, and they look beautiful. And you know, when we say goodbye to a car, sometimes it's kind of one of those things where, you know, you've got a tear in your eye because you've spent some time with it, but we're happy that a customer can take it away, enjoy it, and have some fun with it, and hopefully we'll see it again for services in the future. Once again, this car is from about 300 miles away, so we still get those cars back for service work, and we'll pick them up in our truck. We're very proud of this car, beautiful car, and like I said, today it's not showing very well just because there's so much pollen in the air right now, but when she's shined up, she sure is beautiful. Now, this is just a very typical this is a 67 and 1.5. Very typical. This car's really been sitting in a garage locally, and of course nobody knew about it. I just happened to run into somebody in a restaurant, and they said, well, you know, I've got this car in a garage, and this lady wants to sell this car. Pretty much is her retirement, and she's had it for years and years and years, and probably 3 or 4 years old, probably since 1970. And so we're going to freshen this car up. We'll go through the mechanics of it to make sure that it's safe, and we'll get it ready for her so that she can sell it. But it's always a pleasure to see a car that hasn't been molested. It just is original, and a lot of people like to buy them just like this. But we'll make sure it's safe, and we'll just do a little interior, just kind of clean up stuff. We'll make sure that that it's reliable and the engine is sound, and of course the brakes, as I said, suspension, all that good stuff. So just one of those refreshes that is going to make somebody a happy owner down the road. But it's nice, it's a nice original car. This car came to us from Hawaii. It was a restoration we did about 10 years ago, and a gentleman took it out to Hawaii along with his drop head. And it had been by the ocean, and the salt had attacked everything. And so we brought it back to clean it and re-chromed some of the pieces on it. Look at the interior. Now this car's for sale. It's just a beautiful example of a maroon 120 coupe, which really is a gorgeous little car. And these are going up in value, and it really is getting to the point where they're still affordable now, but down the road they're not going to be. But the lines of this car is one of my favorites, you know, almost the teardrop kind of styling. And of course the fender skirts on it just set it off completely. It's just a beautiful car. So in this part of the shop we do our mechanical restorations, brakes, suspension, of course some service work as well. These cars, like this special XKE 150S triple carb car has come in for a complete look at. It was restored by another company, and they've missed some very key details which the owner has asked us to finish up on. So that's exactly what we're doing. We put a battery kill switch in it, and just a bunch of little fettling is really all it needs, and a safety check, the brake pipes were loose, etc., etc. So we're making sure this car is going to be a car that this gentleman can drive every single day, and not have to worry about whether it's going to start or etc., etc., and it's not going to leak oil and all that good stuff. So that's typical of what we do, and of course we start from the ground up, and I'll show you some cars a little later on that we've actually have started every single nut and bolt restoration. This is a car that we did a restoration on about 4 years ago. It's back in for a service, and we've picked it up from Los Gatos in California. The customer obviously is happy with what we did and decided that they want to bring it back for us for service, which is quite a long way. But we have a truck and trailer, and that's what we do. So we're happy to accommodate. We did a complete paint job on this car, and we did the interior on this car, and we rebuilt the engine. So this is a long-term project. Usually something like this will take us in the region of about a year, and it'll it all basically culminates in the beauty of the E-Type Jag. And so over here we have the rest of the mechanical shop, and you'll see we're working on a late model XJS, which is actually kind of a rare car. It's a 5-speed, and the dual mass flywheel went bad on it, and we had to get one for an Aston Martin because that's all that will work on it. So we're waiting for parts on that. And every now and again we get a different type of car, other British cars. Lots of our customers that have Jags trust us with their Triumphs and their Sunbeams, their Roots cars. Just needs brakes. It's been sitting for a little while, so we'll make it all nice and safe and reliable, of course. This is a car that we have done a complete restoration on. We painted this car, and the interior was all done, of course, when we take the engine and the gearbox out. We just rebuilt the engine on this car. We take the seats out, so it's kind of in a half stage as it sits right there. But this car's actually going to be a car for sale, and we're just fettling it, just getting all the bits and bobs ready for sale. So it's on a hoist right there. Okay, so here's Eric. Eric is our master engine builder. He's been with us 20 years, and pretty much all you can say is it's art. A lot of these things are almost too nice to put into cars, and I always joke that I'd like one in my living room. I'm not sure my wife would appreciate that. But Eric has been building these engines, like I said, for us for 20 years, and he's been around British cars all his life. So, and we really appreciate the work that he does. Obviously, it's outstanding stuff. So he'll rebuild the engines. Like in here, he has a 6.0 V12 Jag engine, which is actually going into a custom XKE 120 with a tubular frame. And so this is all high dollar and very, very close tolerance, almost a race motor. But this is just typical of the kind of work that goes on in here, and the attention to detail. Of course, this is a clean room, and I'll close the door behind us so it stays that way. A lot of the times when you see these engines and you see what we're up against, we'll get an engine like this that basically needs to be rebuilt. And if you look at it from that standpoint, and that's how we get it, and you look at the art that comes out, and I'll take you over to one right now just so you can compare it. This is typical of when an engine is done. Just the pure artwork that goes into this thing is just gorgeous. And this is similar to the engine out of the first car I showed you. It's a 150S. It's a triple carb. It's quite a rare car. The pumpkin colored head is just sets it off. It's just beautiful. And we buy the paint for this, and then we tint it to get it exactly to factory specs. I want to introduce you to Eric. He's our master engine rebuilder.
Nice to meet you.
And Eric has been with us for 20 years, and this is the kind of work, the artwork that comes out of his clean room, and we're very proud of it. And I know Eric is very proud of the job he does. And tell us what happened to this engine and what you did to it.
Well, this engine came here because he was burning oil and was very noisy on the top end. I mean, what we did, we disassembled the motor, find the problem, and we actually rebuilt the head with genuine Jaguar parts and special bearings, the bearings, male bearings, which is the best. And the block is being reborn. We put a new piston, new rings, the bearings, the crankshaft didn't be cut, and new bearings. Like we installed clavite bearings on the crankshaft, height flow pump. I mean, all the good parts we can find, and
it's just absolutely a work of art. Of course, all the covers and carburetors have been polished, and as we talked about, the pumpkin head. Then this is a 150 XK 150S engine, which is going in an absolutely beautiful concourse car. So everything has to be correct. But really nice work, Eric, isn't it? So it's satisfying when you get to this point, and it's satisfying when you get to this point, and the next thing will be in the car and it'll be running. And we've already test ran this on a stand. So before these engines go into vehicles, you know, it'll go on the test stand and it'll be run for, you know, for quite a while, just to make sure everything is dialed in. And then of course, when it gets back in the car, it'll have to be retuned as we drive it, and as Eric drives it, and then I drive it, and then Eric drives it again, and we just come to a decision at the end of the process that we're happy exactly where it's at. And then of course we drive it and we check for leaks, we go back through the whole process, and then finally we have Keith, who's Eric's assistant, come in, and he's the detail guy, and he'll come back in and just make sure that everything looks absolutely perfect. And then once we're happy with it, we talk to our customer about picking it up or getting it delivered. So we're sure that our customer here is going to be very happy with what we've done here. And I'm kind of sorry to see it go, because I kind of would like this one in my living room. So I don't think the wife would appreciate that. But yeah, it's wonderful stuff, and we're very lucky to have Eric. So good stuff. Here's typically one of our cylinder heads that we rebuilt. This was sent in from a customer from the Midwest, and we've completely gone through this. We've welded anything that needed welded, and of course we've surfaced everything, and completely gone through the whole thing. New tappet guides, new valve seats, new valve springs and camshafts, etc. And so this is typical of what our machine shop, in-house machine shop, does for us, which is kind of interesting stuff. But this one is obviously a silver, it's a natural color, and the different years of the E-types and of course of the XK engines had different colors. So some of them are gold, some of them blue, some of them natural, some of them pumpkin. So some of them red. So those are kind of interesting to see those come in and go out. So this is a rear end out of a 66 E-type. We've rebuilt the pumpkin, and of course we have new brakes, and we've welded the cage. Very often they crack, and this is just about we just kind of pop the cage on there, and this one will be ready to put the drive shafts on, the hubs and all that stuff here in the next few days. And this is kind of just typical of the kind of work that we do. This is our trim shop, and you'll see all the patterns, the different types of materials, the carpets, the leather, more patterns, just of about any kind of Jaguar, and probably more than that. And what will happen is a customer will bring a car in, and they'll either want to freshen up, which is okay, or a complete interior. And this one's in the process now. We've cleaned, put new weather strips all the way around, a new windscreen weather strip, recovered the center console, and new carpets. So this is what we call a freshen up. And this is not going to be a show car, but it's certainly a nice driver, 66 2+2, which is kind of unusual. There wasn't that many of them made. And over here you'll see Stitch, our upholsterer, who's been with us probably for, what is it, 6 years I think now, and 6 years. And you'll see some seats from a Buick Riviera. This is not normally what we do, but Stitch has been doing British and American cars for 16 years plus. And ultimately, so we get involved once again. You know, we get customers with Jags, that like what we do. So can you please do this for us? And and we do. We accommodate, of course.
Well, what I'm doing is tearing these seats down, getting them ready for a complete rebuild. As you can see, that really doesn't look like there's much wrong with them, but they've been reupholstered recently. So what you get into is the foam wasn't redone. This one here, for instance, has a mouse nest in it. And so it was all basically covered right over again, and we don't do that here. We'll strip her clear down, replace the wood where it needs to be replaced. We sandblast everything to the bare frame. This one's been coated in a couple different colors. I did sandblast half of it so you could see it. And then we start putting them all back together. Many instances, these wood trim, there's a lot of wood in these seats. If they're warped, cracked, dry rotted, we replace it all. And that way you're getting a complete rebuild on the seats. Another problem we see a lot on the seat tracks, first of all, they're frozen. Other people have worked on them. They're supposed to all take the correct type of hardware, but on these two seats, they had these little tiny guys in there. So in the event of an accident, this would have been bad because something would have gave and broke. So we make sure everything is correct on these because safety is one of our first concerns. Same thing with seat belts. Folks ask us, so can you just stitch it? They're too much, this and that. No, we can't, because it's your safety we're concerned about.
And then you use hides like this to do seats.
And then we redo it all in the leather. These were redone in vinyl. If you're going to go to the point of having the new covers made, it's recommended to replace the foam and everything, because this foam's already 50 years old, so we put new foam on, it's going to last another 50.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to last 50.
No, it won't make it another 10 years. It'll be gone, especially with mice in here eating on them.
Pretty nice stuff, man.
Yeah.
We do
Love
good stuff.
doing it.
Yeah,
Love
and then
it.
of course over here, thanks Stitch. And then we've got
Very rewarding.
over here we're just doing, as I said, a freshen up on this car, and Sherry, who's disappeared on us, but Sherry's putting the weather strips on this car right now, which is actually not a really easy job. It's one where you can stab your hand pretty good, but no doubt it'll come out perfect as it normally does. So. Now Bart's on a time crunch on this one, so we're not going to disturb him too much, but this is where he does his magic. This is our in-house cylinder head repair facility, and similar to the other engines that have been built, Bart will start from scratch, and a lot of these heads need welding and they're cracked, and so he has to go back in there and completely replace valves, tappets, of course the valve seats, valves, everything that needs to be to make this head probably better than it ever was when it first came out the factory. Sometimes it had to be straightened, etc., etc. So there's a lot of work and a lot of man hours, probably about 80 hours to do a cylinder head. That's 2 weeks work, of course, and that's that runs up the bill. But unfortunately, if you want to do these right, and because of unleaded fuels over a period of time, there's all kinds of issues and cooling system issues that can arise in a cylinder head. And we're talking about 50 years old or whatever, so that in itself creates issues, just age stress and all that stuff. So this is what Bart does in here, and we're proud to have Bart as part of the team, and with his expertise is second to none on these cylinder heads. He's been doing them for years. So everything is just check, fit, test, and measure, and Bart will not let the stuff go until it's absolutely 100%, and that's exactly how we like to operate. Okay, so now we're in our bodywork department, and this is Mel. He's working away. We're not going to interrupt him because we are once again on a deadline, and we like to get these things done for our customers as quick as we can. But Mel's been with us around 20 years, and his expertise is, he can look at a car and he can tell, while it's still painted, exactly what's wrong with it. And he look at it and he'll go, well, it's going to need this, this, this. And I'm going, but it looks okay to me. And he goes, 20 years, Clive. So I have to trust your judgment on it. But there's a lot to this car. You'll see this has been hacked around, and so we have to kind of rebuild it. It's a drop-head coupe, which was pretty much taken back and as a roadster style because somebody didn't want to put another top on it, etc., and was cut down. But a lot of work, and the engine and gearbox and everything is out of the car, and that allows us to do all the welding underneath and straighten out and get all the panels straight, and then hang the doors, because a lot of the times you'll hang the doors on these cars and they'll be all over the place. So this car has been separated and been re-welded, and the ultimate result will be a beautiful, beautiful car, of which we've done so many of these. It's like second nature. So we appreciate Mel's work. I mean, he really does a fantastic job, and you'll see other stuff, you know, the bonnet for this car, and this is just painstaking labor. It just goes on and on and on. And some of the tools that he uses, obviously the English wheel, which is a really big deal, because, you know, it's nice to have one, but if you don't have the person that knows how to work on it, then work with it, it's difficult. So, you know, and of course shears and other things that make it work in here. So anyway, as I said, this is, we take a body and completely strip it. This was a barn find in Indiana. In fact, the gentleman that owns the car has been trying to buy this car from his uncle for 40 years and had a Chevy 348 Tri-Power in it, and it was completely incorrect. And you'll see that the body here, when I first looked at this car, I thought, well, it looks pretty good on this side, and then you strip it down and you see really what's going on. And we're waiting for some panels to come in, and they should be here in about a week. They come from England, specially handmade on an English wheel like I showed you. And then these will be welded on. Mel will take care of all of that. You can even see the original leading, where the leading was on the car. And we've got ordered some doors and a boot lid from England, all specially handmade for this car. And they have wood as their frames, and then the skins are put over the top. And of course the metal work is no issue for us, but we really don't bend wood. It's not kind of what we do. There are certain specialists out there that you just have to rely on, and we're happy to do that because these guys are really good. We don't paint here because it's just got so difficult in California to get licensing and have the facility, and so expensive. We have 3 great paint vendors that do an awesome job for us, and of course we're happy to accommodate any customer that wants to send it to their own paint shop, but we'll do all the prep and get this thing ready. So this one will get a new engine, it'll get a new gearbox, everything basically on this car. We start from fresh. We start from a very blank canvas. We'll put a 5-speed. It'll have disc brakes, of course, as a 150, as a 120, 120 with disc brakes, excuse me, and then it'll have chrome wire wheels on it, and it'll be kind of a teal green when it's done. So, but all the door posts and everything have all been rebuilt. We really just, as I said, had to start from scratch on this car. And we'll hopefully have this done in about 8 months. Should be rolling out of here with a happy customer, we hope. So, anyway, thanks for letting me give you the condensed guided tour of the shop, and you understand why I come to work every day. Not only because of these beautiful cars, but I really do have the best team in the business, and without that talent, you really don't have anything. You know, it'd be nice to put some cars, but without the people that do such an awesome job here of putting these cars together and making them look as beautiful as they do. So I'm very, very proud to own XK's Motorsports, but I'm more proud that I work with a great bunch of people that just are passionate about what they do, and this really just couldn't happen without them. So anyway, thanks, and hopefully we'll check you out in the next video.